What is up, divergent friends? Welcome to Cognitive Dissonance, the channel where we kind of take a look at the insanity surrounding us, and we have some insane shit to talk about today, for sure. But first things first, shout out to Tyler Koala from Journey to Truth for making that fire ass intro for me. Good luck. You can still follow me on Twitter. I'm also on DLive, Twitch, Gab. I'm up on Foxhole now, so what up, Foxhole fam? If you want to donate, you can go to loyal2ThaFoil.com and donate directly, or I will put my Cash App tag in the description below. Feel free to throw in. And if you haven't checked out my other show, Space Force News, live every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube's One Foot in 5D with my super awesome co-host Alara of Sirius. You should check that out. We have a ton of fun. So yeah, let's get into this. So I know that it's kind of against the current zeitgeist to say that there is a shadowy cabal of powerful elites that are putting in place their plans for, you know, global domination, for the direction of the human race. But guys, there is literally a cabal of elites that are putting together plans to direct the future of the human race. Like, it's not a conspiracy theory. If you don't believe me, look at that Time News article they put out this week. Man, that was wild, right? Just own it. Just own it up. Like, oh, Trump was right. There was some organization, working behind the scenes. It just wasn't what you thought. Yeah, okay, guys. Um, so I mean, that's case in point, right? Now, sometimes these elites might meet in secret, um, you know, do some weird stuff, worship some owls, whatever. Other times, they meet in public. Well, they meet in a public venue, so to speak. Then they use their platforms and their different organizations to kind of put together and agree to push the same narrative, the same propaganda to the public. Davos is one of those times. So if you guys have been paying any attention, you know that um, the Davos Agenda, and you probably saw the commercials or various news articles over the past week and a half or 2 weeks that have touched on this. Well, every year, leaders of the world and titans of global industry, they get together in Davos, Switzerland, and they chart a course. They chart a course for where they want the future of humanity to land and how they're going to get there. Okay, these people take over the entire town and they pretty much shut it down. I mean, you can't even really get in unless you have an invite. So they have their little conferences and they do roundtables. They make little videos. and then they release it all to the public. Davos is sponsored specifically by the World Economic Forum and their uber creepy leader, Dr. Evil Klaus Schwab. If you've been following me, you know I did some videos on the guy and on the books that he wrote. I think I have them posted up on Pilled now and on Foxhole now. If you haven't seen them and you want to go check them out, I broke down, a couple of the things that he's gotten involved in. But at Davos, they bring together everybody, and I want you guys to kind of take a look at what they push.
We've reached a human crisis unlike any that we've experienced in the last 75 years.
Meaning one side has too much, the other side will oppose it.
We've done a lot of things to create the imbalances that we have today.
COVID-19 has laid bare the systemic social inequities. Addressing these larger problems must become our priority.
We have to make sure that the economy actually works for the people.
It's not just about growth for growth's sake, but how we share that prosperity.
It is not sustainability or profit. It is profit through sustainability.
We have to reskill our people to be successful. And if they're more prosperous, the companies are going to be more prosperous.
The most important tools are the education and technology.
Technology creates opportunities so that people are able to move to greener industries.
It's not about not knowing that we are in a climate emergency. It's about choosing to take action.
For that, you need to act decisively in the support of renewable energy.
The science is very clear today that the sustainable path is more attractive.
We can focus on the short-term benefit, or we can look further to solve bigger issues.
We need unprecedented collaboration to create systemic change.
It means redesigning the instruments we currently have
on a completely different trajectory, and that doesn't leave anybody behind.
We are one community, and we have to remember that.
So you can tell these guys are pushing globalism, right? A lot of those terms, climate emergency, sustainability, inequity, inequality, you should feel like you've heard that shit before, okay? None of this is new. Let me tell you something. The Great Reset isn't really a reset at all. It's just a rebrand of Agenda 2030, okay? And their goals are literally exactly the same. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna read, some of the goals that they have listed on their Agenda 2030 briefing. Their goal is to end poverty in forms everywhere. They want to end hunger. They want to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, gender equality, urgent action to combat climate change. They want to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. I hope that shit don't look like Chaz or Chop, whatever they want to call it. But so this sounds a lot like what we see on the Georgia Guidestones. If you're not hip to that, you should go check that out. But you can see that basically what they have done is they've come to attack this implementation of Agenda 2030 from a different angle. Okay, and now what they're calling it is the Great Reset. And it's crazy because Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum guy, he literally wrote a book called COVID-19, The Great Reset. That's one of the things that he wrote that I had covered. And they are all on the same page with this, right? We need to take the opportunity that COVID presented, because, never let a good crisis go to waste. We need to take that opportunity to reform society, to change the way we look at the world. And those things sound good on paper. Those things sound good if they would finish their sentences. And I'm going to give you an example. One of the goals that they had for the Agenda 2030 on that paper I just had in front of me. So one of the goals was to decrease the number of traffic deaths by half. Laudable goal. Okay. You know how they're going to do that? By cutting down the number of privately owned vehicles. By implementing rideshare for everybody. See, these people don't finish their sentences, right? They want to make housing more inclusive. Oh, that sounds fair, right? Yeah, things should be inclusive. Um, they want to make housing more inclusive by basically getting rid of suburbs. They want to get rid of private property altogether. Okay? They had they it got pulled down now, but they had a video up, and damn, I should have looked for it, but the name of the video was "It's 2030. I own nothing. I have no privacy, and I couldn't be happier." And these people are selling wolf tickets, okay? And Klaus Schwab is at the forefront of this insanity. So, in order to do that, they have to have everybody on the same page. Okay? Everybody has to want to build back better, like they say. All right? And to do that, they're going to have to reform a lot of things. Klaus Schwab spends a lot of time writing about what he calls the fourth industrial revolution, which is basically technocracy, right? They want to put scientists and these tech elite in control and of creating and directing whatever programs that they think will be useful to get us all on board and to guide the human race into the future. Okay. Now, one of the things that really kind of stands in their way with this is capitalism, right? Programs that they espouse and these virtues that they signal go over a lot easier in socialist societies, okay? Or in autocracies like China, that's kind of been a merge of authoritarianism and capitalism, okay? Which is kind of a novel thing. But as you can see with what's going on in China, what they did was they used capitalism to build up the power of the state, and now they're trying to walk that shit back. Okay? Just like Russia in the 20s, right? They formed this like capitalist society. They let these individuals build up businesses. They give people a little bit of a taste of freedom, and then when the state gets what they need, they go in and they claim control of the industries. They claim control of the businesses. We're seeing this right now in China. Okay, if you're not paying attention, Jack Ma from Alibaba, one of China's most rich and notable people, literally dipped out for weeks after making some comments about the Chinese Communist government and their increase of regulation. I mean, they're slowly taking away control of the companies that were built by these private individuals, and they're consuming that power and using it to fuel the iron grip of their state. Okay, it's just like what happened in Russia in the 20s, and then we saw the rise of Leninism and Marxism and such. So I mean, to do this, these people are going to have to redefine capitalism itself, and this is a primary concern of the Davos meeting this year. They want to move from what they call um, maximum shareholder value within companies, right? Where the goal is specifically the goal of the company is to provide the most value to the shareholders to make money, right? They want to redefine this way of looking at things and implement something that they call stakeholder capitalism, right? Where businesses are not just responsible to the individual shareholders, but they're responsible to society as a whole. They're responsible to the market as a whole. They're responsible to the globe as a whole. And it's funny because these people push these ideas, and it's always rules for thee, but not for me. And if you don't believe me, look at the shit that happened with GameStop last week, right? The people, we want to give power to the people. We want to increase, equality, financial equality. The minute these poor people start making some money, the rich dudes was on TV crying like, "Oh hell no, hell no, no, no. Just hold on now, just hold on." Right? I mean, the dude, a hedge fund manager, was literally crying on TV like, these people, they're sitting at home with their government checks. He said, and they're, I'm just trying to make a living. Like this is the the mentality of these people. It is wild. It is wild. So one of the ways they can do this, like I said, is by redefining capitalism itself and its position in society to something that they're calling stakeholder capitalism, which is literally like the buzzword on the lips of every CEO and government at the moment. And I'm not saying companies don't have a responsibility to, the environment or to their communities, but if you take away making money and business growth in general as the onus for the corporation, you get caught in a pretty sticky wicket. Most of this stuff, I have a feeling they just push for PR. But let's take a look at this. So a few weeks before Davos even occurred, Klaus releases this right here, the Davos Manifesto 2020, the universal purpose of a company in the fourth industrial revolution. Like I said, the technocracy, or yeah. So he says the purpose of a company is to engage all its stakeholders in shared and sustained value creation. In creating such value, a company serves not only its shareholders, but all of its stakeholders, employees, customers, suppliers, local communities, society at large, right? Um, they talk about treating people with dignity and respect. And then we've got Nike making shoes in China. So with slave labor. Yeah, I don't know. This shit never works. I mean, they write the stuff down and it makes them feel good or it sounds real good to the people. They get the less informed to buy on and man, they go in with this stuff. Here's another one of the little commercials that they put together for Davos 2021. All right, I want you to take a look. It's talking about what the Great Reset actually is.
The pandemic has radically changed the world as we know it, and the actions we take today as we work to recover will define our generation.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis.
2020 has been challenging on a lot of levels, as economic, environmental, and societal frailties have been laid bare. But it's also proved that when we need to, we can act rapidly and restructure our lives.
Recovery from the pandemic is an opportunity. We can see rays of hope in the form of a vaccine, but there is no vaccine for the planet. Nature needs a bailout.
You don't want to go back to the status quo that you had before simply because it was the status quo that got us here.
With everything falling apart, we can reshape the world in ways we couldn't before. Ways that better address so many of the challenges we face. And that's why so many are calling for a great reset. A great reset? That sounds more like buzzword bingo masking some nefarious plan for world domination. Hands up, this kind of slogan hasn't gone down well. But
I love how they just call it out. I'm sorry, I had to stop the video. I love how they just call it out. It sounds like some plan for world domination. Yeah, just a little bit.
All we really want to say is that we all have an opportunity to build a better world. And it's not surprising that people who've been disenfranchised by a broken system and pushed even further by the pandemic will suspect global leaders of conspiracy. But the world's not that simple. Every one of us has differing priorities, values, and ideas. That's part of why solutions are so hard to come by, and why we all need to be involved in the decision-making. Because whether it's politicians, CEOs, academics, activists, or you, we're all about getting people together.
They want us to be involved in the decision making until we're actually involved in the decision making.
Even those you may not like, to sit down at the table and develop solutions that work for all of us. But
we need enormous trust between the private sector and the public sector for this to actually work. That trust is hard to come by.
It's time for people to work together, listen to each other, and build this trust, so we can move towards a better world.
You guys get the idea, okay? What kills me about these people is that they think they know what's best for you, and they think change is a top-down responsibility. They've got it backwards. Social change should always be bottom up. should always be bottom up. People have to wake up and want to get involved, and they need to start at home, right? My argument against this whole one world government nonsense is that there's a reason we don't have people in Namibia making laws for people in New York. There's a reason we don't have, somebody in New York making laws for somebody in California. And I'm talking about at the state level. I'm not talking about at the federal level. The federal level is bad enough. But their answer is this top-down approach where they know better than you do what you need. But you have to be the change. If and when I say get involved locally, I mean whatever you can do. Get on your local school board. Write letters. Organize something, anything. Run for office. Pay attention and do research before you vote. These things, if everybody was doing that, this world would be a much different place. But what's crazy is these people swear they know what you need better than you do. They're even trying to redefine business as we know it. They see capitalism as like an inherent evil. And what's a little different now is that we're not just talking about companies in one country that maybe have like a national reach. We're talking about true transnational corporations that have interests across the globe. Well, these people want you to comply. And they put these messages out, but they never act against their own best interest. There's a hell of a lot of hypocrisy here, and I'm going to show you some of it. I'm going to show you some of it. So, as I said, one of their primary goals is to literally redefine what capitalism is and how we allow it to function in society. Klaus and his crew is arguing that corporations have like a global responsibility and a responsibility to their communities, and they do, right? And they do, but not at the expense of the business itself. See, successful businesses and successful corporations and competition breed innovation that breeds better products. It watching people succeed in this way breeds a desire in others to want to succeed that way. If I'm going to use doctors as an example. If there's no reason for you to go to school after you become a medical doctor to study a specialty, because we're in some, you know, socialist type system where maybe you're not, your impetus isn't money, because now they've tried to take that away. You're working for some sort of a national healthcare system. What spurs you to want to be the best? What spurs you to want to put that extra time in? You know, like I said, socialism is an antithesis to the breeding and the success of innovation that comes with capitalism. They just don't understand that yet. And so, speaking of hypocrisy, all right. So, as I said, world leaders get together at this forum, and this year their keynote speaker was President Xi of China. Winnie the Pooh himself got together, and it's crazy because there was a great divergence between like what President Xi was saying versus what President Moon from Korea. I don't know if it's president or prime minister. If Moon Jae-in from Korea or Yoshihide from Japan. Like their messages were totally different, but they sit down and agree that they're all shooting at the same target, which seems kind of wild to me. But so the theme this year for Davos was supposed to be rebuilding trust. That's what that guy in that commercial was starting to get at, and that it's hard fought. I can't imagine why. I cannot imagine why. Okay, so when Winnie the Pooh spoke, when President Xi spoke, he gave like a 15-minute speech, and it's crazy because when these people freaking talk, they're literally reading from the same script. Okay, they're reading It's like they get notes, man, and they just come out and they all read the same stuff. Um, he spoke a lot about inclusion and tolerance, right? Not even kidding you, as they're putting people in camps. So he was speaking on uh, different, different cultures being accepted, and how society needs to come together, and all of this hippie sounding stuff. Forgive me to any actual hippies out there, but um, it's funny that he does all this. I'm going to show you why in a second. Actually, I'm going to let you hear what he had to say. Maybe, if this shit'll work with me.
The different histories, cultures, and social systems are as old as human societies, and they are the inherent features of human civilization. There will be no human civilization without diversity, and such diversity will continue to exist for as long as we can imagine. Difference in itself is no cause for alarm. What does ring the alarm is arrogance, prejudice, and hatred. It is the attempt to impose hierarchy on human civilization, or to force one's own history, culture, and social system upon others.
You mean like you're doing everywhere else? What? Man, this cat is wild. Literally talking about diversity and inclusion and not wanting to force your culture on others while they're literally re-educating Uyghurs in camps. Like it's freaking baffling. So as China is sitting here telling you and telling the rest of the world that we need to be focused on inclusion and not giving people equal access and not judging other people, right? As he's making that speech, China is literally using their education ministry to push the idea um that there is a masculinity crisis in China. Okay? But you go ahead and drink your soy, um, because in China what they're doing is they are looking for ways to toughen up the boys in their country. Literally, they said, and this was freaking killing me. They plan to beef up gym classes after a top official said female teachers and pop culture had made boys weak, inferior, and timid. Damn, I agree with him on one thing. Um, so they say in the latest attempt to tackle what academics and news outlets call a masculinity crisis, the education ministry has proposed emphasizing the spirit of yang, or male attributes, by hiring more sports instructors and redesigning physical education classes in elementary and secondary schools. They are literally trying to prevent what they call the feminization of male youth. Okay? But they'll do it over here, though. But they'll do it over here. It's crazy because Dinesh D'Souza did a documentary. I want to say that it was from Trump Card, where he had um that imam on there, that, and I don't know for 100% if it was the imam of peace. That's his tag on Twitter. But he had an imam on there that had previously been a fanatic, Islamic fanatic, basically. And he was talking. Dinesh had asked him, why is it that the Muslim immigrants come to America and will vote in favor of things that they absolutely hate? It's to cause social disruption. And that's how he explains it. You know, it's to cause a disruption in the fabric of society. They will come over here and vote for things they hate because they are not fans of our system. Okay? China will make statements on a global stage about equality, about acceptance, about inclusivity, while they're putting people in camps and hiring gym teachers to teach Chinese kids to play dodgeball. Okay? Because they're just not manned up enough. So, I mean, as far as hypocrisy, like I said, they'll tell you one thing. And as you know, they will go and do something totally freaking different. Okay, but President Xi was not the only person there that I thought is super freaking hypocritical. Okay, aside from Klaus, one of my favorite people to go on tirades about is Bill Gates. And if you follow me, you already know this. Okay, the dude literally teamed up with Harvard to use stratospheric aerosol injections to dim the sun, right? Because that shit ends well. He worked with Oxitec to release mosquitoes in Brazil, genetically modified mosquitoes that were supposed to breed with the native population and create a hybrid that dies off quicker. But what had really happened was they turned into freaking super mosquitoes. Okay? They turned into freaking super mosquitoes. And then the US gives him the go ahead to release the shit in Texas and Florida. Okay. Bill Gates, hands in all the cookie jars. He was at Davos discussing climate change, no less, talking about carbon markets. Trying to push the idea that selling carbon offsets will help decrease the amount of carbon and whatnot in the atmosphere. And it's kind of crazy. Okay, what they want to do is they sell these carbon offsets anyway, but they every company has a certain amount. If you don't use it, you can sell yours, or if you use more than you're supposed to, you can buy them from somebody else, right? And this is something that they've had in place for quite a while now. Well, he goes on to this, onto this forum just to kind of talk about how we can get better green technologies and how we can make this um, more of an acceptable way forward. And he sounds evil every time he talks. Listen, I don't care what you guys believe. Really, this dude is one of the horsemen. Like, you don't got to believe in God or whatever or Jesus. I am telling you, this cat is one of the horsemen. Listen.
To drive innovation and create the solutions for hard to abate sectors. Do you see the possibility to expand the voluntary carbon market scale up move in that direction? Would anybody yes, Bill Gates, please.
I think some of the best money ever spent on climate was what Germany and Japan did, buying solar panels when they were still being sold at a high premium cost, which I call the green premium. And so companies' willingness to fund activity, we need to connect that to the innovation cycle. Because after all, if a green product is very high priced, there's no market for it. But if you drive that volume up, then that price delta can come down. And so I do think that really proving to people that the quality of these offsets is strong, that's over the next few years, we'll do better and better in that. But the other is the idea of this catalytic impact and getting some of this money to go into taking the tough, the hard parts, the high green premium parts, and getting those on the learning curve, and getting companies that do that, buy all their buildings with green cement, green steel, and bootstrap like solar panels. We want to give credit to those companies because that learning curve is the only way that you get the entire market for those products to shift to green.
This dude is literally on here talking about green products and carbon capture and carbon offsets and whatnot. Okay. While he's doing that, he 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 is in with a private equity firm um that made a $4.7 billion deal to buy private jet companies, to buy a private jet company. Man, listen. John Kerry, our climate czar, flew to Davos, I think. And when he got back and somebody asked him, how you going to be a climate czar? And you're flying around in your own jet. And he says, well, if you're somebody like me, you know, that's okay. I need to use this jet so I can spread our message, right? Bill Gates wants to talk about green products, green cement, carbon capture. He's buying freaking jet companies, okay? He's buying freaking jet companies. Not only that, not only that, but I know you guys probably have caught this. He is now the biggest farmland owner in the United States, right? In the United States, which is kind of crazy. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute. He also, he also is now has one of the largest ownership stakes in a Canadian railroad. Okay? I think it's kind of funny that these people are telling you about watching yourself, and they're telling other companies they need to watch their emissions. And the same people that are doing that are buying up railroads and freaking jets and all the farmland. And it's funny, especially with respect to the aviation industry. They'll get up there and tell you that flights need the number of flights need to be decreased because of the contrails and this, that, and the other, and how how it makes such a big footprint for us to have all these flights while they are flying to their meetings in their private jets. And it's kind of crazy because the aviation industry is scared right now. I mean, they're really scared right now. And I'm not talking about domestic aviation, right? I'm talking about international travel. They have locked us in. So after Bill Gates gives his little speech, a group of aviation, you know, um, titans basically get together and they ask some pretty good questions. They want to know why isn't the COVID issue being addressed so that they can get airlines back up and running? And they asked a bunch of good questions, and I'm going to read them to you, right? How can access to vaccines be evenly distributed between the haves and the have-nots, right? Which is an issue of moral importance. How quickly could a digital passport proving vaccination against COVID be introduced? What is the legal mechanism to do that? What happens to the people that aren't digital? The people that refuse to get the vaccination? Okay. What security measures would be required and how and by whom would they be administered? These people are pushing for a digital health passport, which is also something that Klaus Schwab has directly addressed, and I covered it in several of my videos. I, Not just the digital health passport, but literal brain scans. If you don't believe me, go watch. Um, but the aviation industry was barely touched, except in the very public proclamations that they made and little commercials that they made where they were talking about decreasing our carbon footprint, right? While Bill Gates is buying up freaking private jet firms, which is nice. Okay. So there are a lot of questions here. And there are a lot of questions that they are going to find really creepy answers for. All right. I said I would get back to the issue about Bill Gates and the farmland. And as I said, he is the biggest owner of farmland in the United States. Now, one of the things that Agenda 2030 and the Global Economic Forum and their proponents have pushed is sustainable agriculture. Okay. That we need to find a way to make sure nobody is hungry. We need to find a way to have sustainable agriculture and sustainable farming. Okay, and um, we need to make sure that we are using something renewable to do so. These people have literally started to push insect protein as an answer and lab meat. Now, I don't know if you know this, but during the pandemic, one of the fastest growing sectors was artificial meat. I think it went up like 284%. And what a lot of people didn't know that I happened to run across by chance, I put together a whole big ass thread on it, was how Bill Gates is heavily invested in lab meat. Okay? And it's kind of crazy. And like I said, I found this article from 2018 that was detailing how Bill Gates had joined up with Tyson and Cargill to invest in, lab meat producers, right? And it's crazy that he bought up all this land, right? I think they want to lock it off. I think he wants to lock it off, not use it for anything, but just make sure everybody else can't use it, including farmers or ranchers. Um, and what is wild and that a lot of people don't know is that a large part of our crops and a large part of our meat here in the United States is shipped to other countries, primarily China. Okay? Primarily China. I mean, it's wild. A while back, farmers in the US couldn't get their product to market. They were being forced to dump stores and euthanize their animals, um, while we're shipping pork to China. I mean, it's freaking crazy. And I will link this below if you guys are interested and going to look and see, what the hell else is going on with this. But we know we know that they want us to work better with less. Okay, that's what they say. Why do we need private ownership of homes and cars when we can have this communal ownership that'll decrease your personal attention to it? Like, if you don't own a house, you're not going to have to worry about um, all of the repairs and other things that come with the house. And if you're not there, you can rent it out to others that may need it. They're really pushing this model. I've talked about it in my other videos. What do you need a car for if you can just push a button on an app and a car will show up to come and get you? You know, what do you need privacy for? If everybody knows what's going on with everybody else, we can increase security. You will be safer. You will be safer. We and that way we can keep all of these super dangerous divergent thinkers away from all of you good people, right? Klaus had made a comment at one point that at some point in the near future, meat will be a treat. Yeah, because they are literally going to push this lab shit on us. All right? Now, this stuff is all tied together. Like I said, the top-down approach isn't going to work. One of the other things that they addressed and that definitely caught my attention was that now a majority of central banks are exploring a digital currency option. Okay? A lot of people operate under the assumption that digital currency is this like super private, untrackable thing that can't be hacked and you can do things and people won't know. I mean, that is only true with certain coins. I have a feeling that if these people are going to use a digital currency, that they're going to go with something like Bitcoin and make it their standard, right? And the only way to do that is to increase regulation. So, hey, crypto traders, just keep that in mind. Um, but they say a majority of central banks around the world are examining whether or not to launch nationally backed digital currencies, a senior Asian policymaker said. Singapore's senior minister said most central banks were looking into the space in response of the rise of e-commerce and alternative payment companies. The majority of central banks are now actively exploring the issue of central bank digital currencies. I'm not even going to get into the stuff on central banks today. That'll be another video. Um, but this is what this Shanmugaratnam, I think, Shanmugaratnam said at a panel at the World Economic Forum's Davos Agenda a couple of Thursdays ago, right? So we can see that they are literally, not like that, what is Bitcoin? We can see that they are literally trying to implement Agenda 2030 all over again. Okay? They want this overarching hegemon of a power structure to be able to bring the change that they deem fit, but they don't want you to get involved. In fact, they're making it seem like it's selfish for you to insist on private ownership of property or to insist on your privacy in general, or even now we're getting to the point where we're going to have to be questioning privacy of thought. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Klaus Schwab himself suggested brain scans, okay? Brain scans for traveling. Not a joke. I did a whole video on it. You should go check it out. So, these people want to limit farming, they want to limit travel, they want to limit where you can live, they want to have these human settlement areas. They want you to eat synthesized meat. They want you to divest yourself of personal property. They want you to submit, and they think that they're going to make you better for it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I'm not here trying to be like a doomer or some doomsday prophet. I think it's important that we know what these people are talking about so that we can find ways in our own lives to make whatever change we can, no matter how insignificant you might think it is at first. Get involved. Pay attention. Tell somebody else what's going on. We need strong communities, strong local bonds, because when this top down shit avalanches like we know it's going to, you want to know who you can turn to when the shit hits the fan. That's all I got for you today. I appreciate you guys chilling with me. Much love. And until next time.